Welcome everyone. This is the first unit of your MMPC 010 Block 1. In this unit, we are going to discuss about the scope of managerial economics. And you all know that managerial economics has gained a lot of importance nowadays. In fact, it has become a separate branch nowadays. So it is very, very essential to study the scope of managerial economics and the other things related to managerial economics. Now, objectives of this unit is to understand the nature and scope of managerial economics. We should familiarize ourselves with economic terminologies, develop some insight into economic issues, acquire some information about economic institutions, and understand the concept of trade-offs or policy options facing society today. You all know that in economics, there are two broad categories, microeconomics and macroeconomics. Now, what is macroeconomics? Macroeconomics, it actually studies the aggregate level of variables. Under this topic, we discuss aggregate levels of variables. And what are those aggregate level of variables? They are gross national product, inflation, unemployment, export imports, taxes on policy, etc. Macroeconomics also addresses questions about changes in investment, government spending, employment, prices, exchange rate of the rupee, and so on. So basically in macro, we study aggregate levels. But Hidden in this aggregate data, we have the micro level data or micro aspects where it is going to affect the output of a number of individual firms and institutions. So micro aspects of the economy are also equally important because macro studies aggregate and in micro we study everything at individual level. So microeconomics deals with individual actors in the economy such as firms and individuals. Now, what is managerial economics? Managerial economics can be thought of as applied microeconomics, and its focus is on the interaction of firms and individuals in markets. The focus of managerial economics is again on 2 points, that is how the firm reacts to changes in the economic environment in which it operates and how it predicts these changes and devises the best possible strategies to achieve the objectives that underlie its existence. Now, the economy, what is an economy? The economy is the institutional structure through which individuals and firms in a society coordinate their desires. It is a study of how human beings in a society go about achieving their wants and desires. It is also defined as the study of allocation of scarce resources to satisfy individual wants or desires. The latter perhaps is the best way to broadly define the study of economics in general. The emphasis is always on allocation of scarce resources across competing ends. We know human wants are unlimited and therefore choice is necessary, and choices necessarily involve something called trade-offs. Now, how the economy functions. Economic theory ties together economics terminology and knowledge about economic institutions. An economic institution, it may be a physical or mental structure that significantly influences economic decisions. Corporations, governments, markets, all these are known as economic institutions. Similarly, cultural norms are also the standards people use when they determine whether a particular activity or behavior is acceptable or not. Economic policy is the action usually taken by the government to influence economic events. Now, finally, economic reasoning helps in thinking like an economist. Economists always analyze questions and issues on the basis of trade-offs, which we discussed earlier. That is, they compare the cost and the benefits of every issue and make decisions based on these costs and benefits. Now, among these corporations and governments and markets, we find that market is the single most important and complex institution in our economy. A market is not necessarily a physical location, but a description of any state that involves exchange. The exchange could be instantaneous, that means immediately, or it could be over time. Markets could be competitive or monopolistic. Market could be with a large number of farms or a small number of farms. It can be with free entry and exit or government licensing restricting entry of farms and so on. The major point is that farms operate in different types of markets and use the well-established principle of managerial economics to improve profitability. So this is the importance of managerial economics. Now let us come to fundamental nature of managerial economics. Management is the creation and maintenance of an internal environment in an enterprise where individuals working together in groups can perform efficiently and effectively towards the attainment of group goals. So, management is coordination. It is an activity or an ongoing process. It is a purposive process. It is an art of getting things done by other people. Now, economics, as you know, is engaged in analyzing and providing answers to manifestations of the most fundamental problem of scarcity. Scarcity of resources results from two fundamental facts of life. What are those two fundamental facts? That wants are virtually unlimited and insatiable, and economic resources to satisfy these human demands are limited. Now, this is the diagram. Scarcity actually arises because of unlimited choices are there, limited resources are there, scarce resources are there, unlimited choices are there. So basically three questions with the scarce resources. What we can do is, the questions are what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. So it is basically the scarce economy, scarcity, that compels us to go for these three choice problems, that is what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Now here, for example, now here these three choice problems have become the three central issues of an economy: what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Economics has developed several concepts and analytical tools to deal with this question of allocation of scarce resources among competing ends. There are three ways by which it can be achieved. One, entirely by the market mechanism; two, entirely by the government; or by a combination of the first two approaches, that is market mechanism and the government. Realistically, all economies employ the last option, that is the combination of market mechanism and government, but the relative roles of the market and government vary across countries. Like for example, in India, the market has started playing a more important role in the economy, while the government has begun to withdraw from certain activities. Thus, the market mechanism is gaining importance recently. Now, according to the central deduction of economic theory, under certain conditions, market allocate resources efficiently. The essence of the market mechanism is indeed captured by the supply and demand equality. That is, supply is equal to demand. That point is actually the efficient point. So efficiency has a special meaning in this context. The theory says that markets will produce an outcome such that, given the economy's scarce resources, it is impossible to make anybody better off without making somebody else worse off. So basically what point here is, market mechanism is a automatic clearing way of doing things. So market mechanism and government both are required, but market mechanism is a better way to look at the problems, economic problems, or to look at the choice, the three choices we discussed earlier. But problem with the market economics, market efficiency, is that the conditions for market efficiency are extremely demanding. The theory requires perfect competition, that is, there must be many buyers and sellers. Goods from competing suppliers must be indistinguishable, which is not practically possible. Buyers and sellers must be fully informed. Again, that is also not there. And market must be complete. That is, there must be market not just for bread here and now, but for bread in any state of the world. So market efficiency is not possible all the time. So there is a chance of market failure. Market failure is pervasive. It comes in four main varieties. They are monopoly, public goods, externalities, and information. Monopoly, under monopoly, we can say that a monopolist can drive up the price of his good by reducing his sales. His sales will fall, but his profits will rise. Consumption and productions are less than the efficient amount, causing a deadweight loss in welfare. There is loss of consumer surplus. Public goods, we know, are non-excludable goods such as law and order, clean air, and so on. Since private sellers cannot expect to recover the cost of producing such goods, they will fail to supply them. Externalities, it means consuming some goods, that is education, anti-lock brakes, etc. Spreads benefits beyond the buyer, that is known as positive externalities or good externalities. Again, this will be ignored when the market decides how much to produce. In the case of good externalities or positive externalities, markets will supply too little, In the case of bads or negative externalities, markets will supply too much. Now, next, last one is the information. In some ways, this is a special kind of externality. This deserves to be mentioned separately because of the emphasis placed upon it in recent economic theory. Informational asymmetry between buyers and sellers is a major cause of market failure. It implies that some sellers are more informed compared to the buyers. Similarly, in the labor market, the laborers are less informed. That is why it is called a market of lemons. Now, if market is failing, then what will happen? If markets fail, then there is a case for intervention. But two questions need to be answered fast. How much does market failure matter in practice? And how can governments put the failure right? Markets often correct their own failures. They're automatically correcting themselves. In other cases, an apparent failure does nobody any harm. In general, market failure matters less in practice than it is often supposed to be. Monopoly, for instance, may seem to preclude an efficient market. The mere fact of monopoly does not establish that any economic harm is being done. If a monopoly is protected from would-be competitors by high barriers to entry, it can raise its prices and earn excessive profits. If that happens, monopoly is undeniably harmful. But if barriers to entries are low, lack of actual competitors does not prove that the monopoly is damaging. The threat of competition may be enough to make it behave as though it were a competitive firm. For example, we can give the example of an American multinational technology corporation, Microsoft. For instance, is a near monopolist in some parts of the personal computer software business. Yet, we can argue that the firm is doing no harm to consumers because its markets remain highly contestable. Even on economic grounds, there is no tidy answer to the question of where the boundary between state, that is governments, and markets should lie. But more than critics allow, markets find ways to mitigate the harm, and that is the task at which governments have often been strikingly unsuccessful. The real world seems to be moving in the direction of placing more reliance on markets than on governments. Now, scope of managerial economics. Here, we discussed about the concept of market and how the market failure is there and how it is automatically correcting itself. Now, from the point of view of firm, managerial economics may be defined as the economics applied to problems of choice or alternatives and allocation of scarce resources by the firms. Thus, managerial economics is the study of allocation of resources available to a firm or a unit of management among the activities of that unit. Managerial economics is concerned with the application of economic concepts and analysis to the problem of formulating rational managerial decisions. There are four groups of problems in both decision making and forward planning of a manager. They are resource allocation, inventory and queuing problems, pricing problems, and investment problems. Resource allocation, basically we know the resources are scarce. It has to be used with utmost efficiency to get optimal results. Thus, a manager decides how to allocate resources to their respective it can be corrected respective is written E, I have omitted, to their respective uses within the firm, while as stated above, the resource allocation decision outside the firm is primarily done through the market. Inventory and queuing problem. Here, inventory involves decisions about holding of optimum levels of stocks of raw materials and finished goods over a period of time. These decisions are taken by considering the demand and supply conditions in the market. Queuing problem involves decisions about installation of additional machines or hiring of extra labor in order to balance the business lost by not undertaking these activities. Third is pricing problem. Fixing prices for the products of the farm is an important decision-making process. Pricing problems involve decisions regarding various methods of prices to be adopted. Investment problem. Forward planning involves investment problems. These are problems of allocating scarce resources over time. For example, investing in new plants, how much to invest, sources of funds, etc. are coming under investment problem. Now, study of managerial economics essentially involves the analysis of certain major subjects like the business firm and its objectives, demand analysis, estimation and forecasting, which helps a manager in its earliest stage in choosing the product and in planning output level. Study of demand elasticity also comes under this. It helps the firm in fixing prices for its products. Then production and cost analysis, profit analysis with special reference to break-even point, capital budgeting for investment decisions and competitions. These are your required, or study of managerial economics involves analysis of all these major subjects. The theory of cost also forms an essential part of this subject. The firm works for profit, and optimal or near maximum profits depend upon accurate price decisions. Theories regarding price determination under various market conditions enable the firm to solve the price fixation problems. Control of costs, proper pricing policies, break-even analysis, alternative profit policies are some of the important techniques in profit planning for the firm, which has to work under conditions of uncertainty. Uncertainty is one of the major factors or major behavior of managerial economics. Thus, managerial economics tries to find out which course is likely to be the best for the firm under a given set of conditions. Now, what will be the appropriate definitions of your our managerial economics? Now, managerial economics, there are different definitions by different economists. Managerial economics is the best is the use of economic modes of thought to analyze business situations. It can be defined as concerned with the application of economic principles and methodologies to the decision-making process within the firm or organization under the conditions of uncertainty. It is the integration of economic theory with business practices for the purpose of facilitating decision making and forward planning by the management. Managerial economics is the application of economic theory and analysis to practice of business firms and other institutions. A common thread among all these definitions is that all these descriptions of managerial economics, which is using a framework of analysis to arrive at informed decisions to maximize the firm's objectives, often in an environment of uncertainty. So basically, managerial economics, you can say the second definition is quite appropriate: application of economic principles and methodologies to the decision-making process within the firm or organization under the conditions of uncertainty. Now, managerial economics and other disciplines. Managerial economics has a lot of similarities with the other disciplines of economics. Microeconomic theory, here price theory, demand concepts, and theories of market structures are few elements of microeconomics which are used by managerial economists. Then macroeconomic theory, though it is not used that much, because macroeconomic theory deals with aggregate level, but at least one part of it is incorporated in managerial economics, that is national income forecasting. National income forecasting would be an important aid to business condition analysis, which in turn would be a valuable input for forecasting the demand for specific product groups. Operation research, this field is used in managerial economics to find out the best of all possibilities. Linear programming is a great aid in decision making in business and industry, as it can help in solving problems like determination of facilities on machine scheduling, distribution of commodities, and optimum product mix, etc. Then theory of decision making is again related to managerial economics. It is to deal with the problems of choice or decision making under uncertainty, where the applicability of figures required for the utility calculations are not available, or utility calculus, no problem. Economic theory is based on assumption of a single goal, whereas decision theory breaks new grounds by recognizing multiplicity of goals and persuasiveness of uncertainty in the real world of management. Statistics is again related to managerial economics. It helps in empirical testing of theory, better decisions relating to demand and cost functions, production, sales, or distributions can be taken with the help of statistical theory. Managerial economics is heavily dependent on statistical methods. Management theory and accounting are also related. Maximization of profit has been regarded as a central concept in the theory of the firm in microeconomics. Accounting data and statements constitute the language of business. In fact, the link is so close that managerial accounting has developed as a separate and specialized field in itself. Now, economic analysis. Economic activity is the constant effort to match ends to means because of scarcity of resources. We have already discussed it. The optimal economic activity is to maximize the attainment of ends. Now, the means and their scarcity, maximize the attainment of ends, the means and their scarcities, or to minimize the use of resources given the ends and their priorities. So, decision making by management is truly economic in nature because it involves choices among a set of alternative courses of actions. The optimal decision making is an act of optimal economic choice considering objective and constraints. This justifies an evaluation of managerial decisions through concepts, precepts, tools and techniques of economic analysis of the following types. That is micro and macro analysis, partial and general equilibrium analysis, and we'll discuss it later. Now let us see micro and macro analysis. In micro analysis, the problem of choice is focused on single individual entities like a consumer, a producer, a market, etc. Macro analysis deals with the problem in totality like national income, general price level, etc., which will be affecting the managerial economists. Partial and general equilibrium analysis. Under this, to attain other things remaining the same, this is partial equilibrium analysis. In general equilibrium analysis, the assumption of given or other things remaining equal may be relaxed and interdependence or interactions among variables may be allowed. Now, comparative static and dynamic analysis. It is with reference to time dimensions. Allowing no change at a point of time is known as static. Allowing once for all change at a point of time, that is comparative static. Allowing successive changes over a period of time, that is dynamics. Positive and normative analysis. In positive economics analysis, the problem is analyzed in objective terms based on principles and theories. In normative economic analysis, the problem is analyzed based on value judgment or norms. Positive analysis is what it is, and normative analysis is what it should be. So we can go back. That is, there are four total this just evaluation of managerial economic decisions through concepts, precepts, tools, and economic techniques of economic analysis of the following types: micro, macro, partial and general, static, comparative, static, and dynamic analysis, positive and normative analysis. Now, basic characteristics of decision making. Now, managerial economics serves as a link between traditional economics and the decision-making sciences for business decision making. The best way to get acquainted with managerial economics and decision making is to come face to face with the real world decision problems. Managerial economics should be thought of as applied microeconomics, which focuses on the behavior of the individual actors on the economic stage, firms and individuals. The basic characteristics of managerial economics can be enumerated as: first, it is concerned with decision makings of an economic nature. Second, it is microeconomic in character. Third, it largely uses that body of economic concepts and principles which is known as theory of the firm. Again, it is goal oriented and prescriptive. Managerial economics is both conceptual and metrical. That means it is actually involves concepts as well as it includes measurements. It includes theory as well as measurements. In decision making of an economic nature, we have already discussed how to produce, what to produce, and how much to produce, for whom to produce. Microeconomic in character means it focuses on firms and individuals and their behavior. And basically, here in the managerial economics concept, the basic characteristics of decision making is largely hovering around the theory of the firm. That is how the firm behaves, maximizing profit under the conditions of given uncertainty, under the conditions of other constraints. Then it is a goal oriented and prescriptive. Now, it can take the help of both theory and measurement. Now, let us take a case study of an American multinational retail company, and we can find out from this case study that how the managerial economics, a role of managerial economist is important. Now, India is one of the biggest retail markets in the world in terms of size and the growth potential in future. An American multinational retail company looked at this potential and decided to choose among different alternatives of entering foreign markets, such as strategic partnership, joint venture, FDI, wholly owned subsidiary, etc. So now American multinational retail company entered into the market because India is one of the biggest retail markets. Now it wanted to choose among different alternatives of entering this market by strategic partnership, joint venture, FDI, etc. Now joint ventures were chosen as the first step of entering the new market, keeping in mind several economic and regulatory restrictions of India. The market entered at that point where 100% FDI was not allowed in multi-brand retailing. That was the time when the multinational company entered into the market. So it decided to enter into India in 2007 via joint venture with an Indian enterprise by setting up cash and carry wholesale outlets where it planned to supply to an Indian retail company which would help it in getting share in consumer market of India. So in 2007, the multinational company entered into the Indian market as a joint venture with an Indian enterprise. Now, what happened actually, it did not fulfill the dream of the multinational, and this venture did not survive for long. It ended in 2014. The American retail giant had two options, whether to leave India or to stay back. Now, the company stayed back as it looked at the consumer market potential, because India has a huge marketing potential. It has a huge number of consumers. So the company looked at the consumer market potential, and it had also invested too much already. So there was no question of going back. So the company looked at different options, and then in 2018 it acquired 77% stake of an Indian e-commerce company for $16 billion, about 1.05 lakh crore. So the decision to acquire this Indian e-commerce company was well thought out, as it is one of the biggest e-commerce company in India, which would give access to a large number of consumers of India, and on the other hand would help in giving direct competition to its old rival, another American e-commerce company. So basically what we are trying to say here, that the American multinational retail company entered to the market as a joint venture in 2007. It didn't become successful. In 2014, it wanted to wind up. It had two options: to leave India or stay back. What it decided was to stay back, and it started looking at different options, and it acquired 77% stake of an Indian e-commerce company to give a competition to another American e-commerce company, which was a rival of this company. So this type of major decision-making problems are faced by managers in business world, and the managers have to choose the best alternative from the available alternatives for the firm. So basically the point here is that managerial economics is different from the microeconomics, in the sense that in microeconomics we teach the theoretical aspects, but in managerial economics you have to take decision at that point of time. It may be positive, it may be negative, it may go against your instinct, but you have to take decision at the correct time. So here in this example, the company tried to stay back and decided to stay back, and decided to acquire 77% stake of an Indian e-commerce company, so that its rival could be defeated, in the sense this particular company can capture the entire market. Now, so basically what exactly we're trying to say is that decision problem is part of inherent in managerial economics, and here the traditional economics, it has borrowed from traditional economics, micro, macro, other statistics, so many other areas of economics. Decision problem has prompted the managerial economics portion, managerial economics concept. Now, managerial economics gives us decision science tools and techniques of analysis. It gives us optimal solution to business problems. So managerial economics is related to the decision making of managerial economics is related to your decision problems, and it will give you optimal solution under uncertainty or under difficult situations. We can say like that. Now, let us come to the next slide. So basic characteristics here is that managerial economics, application of economic theory and decision tools to solve managerial problems. And here, management decision problems give you economic theory, apply or use economic theory, microeconomics, macroeconomics. Decision science, mathematical economics are also used. Managerial economics, application of economic theory and decision tools to solve managerial problems. Then that gives you the optimal solution to managerial decision problems. So basically the scope here is that we have to understand what is the nature and scope, the objectives, and familiarize ourselves with the economic terminologies, and we develop some insight into economic issues. As I told you earlier, the issues are mainly the resources are scarce, and there are unlimited wants are unlimited and choices are limited, scarce resources, so one has to use it judiciously so that the optimal solution can be achieved. So that is the basic idea behind the managerial economics or managerial decision problems. Now, if you are summarizing it, we can say that the managerial economics is used by firms to improve their profitability. It is the economics applied to problems of choices and allocation of scarce resources by the firms. It refers to the application of economic theory and the tools of analysis of decision science to examine how an organization can achieve its objective most efficiently. Managerial decisions are evaluated through concepts, managerial concepts of economics, tools, statistical tools, and other tools, etc., and techniques of economic analysis of various types. These are the ways we can describe the scope of managerial economics. In Unit 2, we have to discuss the firm, stakeholders, objectives, and decision issues. In Unit 3, we'll discuss basic techniques of managerial economics, basic techniques involved in managerial economics. So let us go back to the beginning. Let us summarize it again. Basically, three choice problems of an economy. Sorry. There is always market failure. Market failure is always there. The managerial economist has to take care of that. Sorry. And when markets are failing because of so many reasons, there is the scope is problems of choice. Basically, here it will be defined as the problems of choice or alternatives and allocation of scarce resources by the firms. So basically, managerial economics is an extension of microeconomics, but for practical purposes. Here, the managerial economics is studying the allocation of resources available to the firm or unit of management among the activities, and here it is applying the concepts to the problem of formulating rational managerial decisions. These are the four groups of problems. So these are the appropriate definitions. Managerial economics and the relations with other disciplines. Then economic analysis, micro and macro, partial and general equilibrium analysis, static, comparative, and dynamic analysis, the basic characteristics, case study, and this is decision making. Oh my God. In the unit 3, we are going to discuss basic techniques. There we will discuss derivatives and optimization problems, how the firm is optimizing profit with the constraint, without constraint. Then we have to discuss the marginal concept, then the elasticity of demand concept, then different graphs, different functions about which are used in managerial economics. So scope of managerial economics is actually vast. It uses all the microeconomic concepts, all the elasticity of demand, then your optimization problems, cost minimization, profit maximization, Then how to hire inputs like labor and capital. For that, we have to learn a few mathematical tools which will be taught in Unit 3. Unit 2 will be learning about the firm's decision making, basically the objectives of the firm and the decision issues facing a managerial economist. Sorry. Here in microeconomic theory, we can discuss that the roots of managerial economics spring from microeconomic theory. Okay. Now, price theory, demand theory, as I have written it here, then these are the few elements. It has an applied bias as it applies economic theories in order to solve real world problems of enterprises. So basically, the root of managerial economics is actually microeconomic theory. In macroeconomics, as I told you, that is the very least, it has a little relevance, but it is important. And in operation research, here, like I told you, the linear programming is one of the great aids in decision making in business and industry. It can help in solving problems like determination of facilities on mission scheduling. Then theory of decision making. Here it is actually the economic theory is based on assumption of a single goal, whereas decision theory breaks new grounds by recognizing multiplicity of goals. That is theory of decision making. Under that, it will come. Now, statistics, I discussed it earlier. Now, economic analysis here, decision making by management. Here, it justifies the evaluation of managerial economics through concepts, precepts, tools, etc. Let me repeat all these again because we have time. So, basic characteristics, decision making, then okay, goal oriented and perspective. So, what exactly we infer here? We infer that managerial economics is a separate branch from so-called microeconomics, though it is related to microeconomics, because in managerial economics we always deal with firms and their decision-making behaviors. So managerial economics can be branched out from the economics and from the microeconomics, though microeconomics has a lot of influence, tremendous influence on managerial economics. So here decision making is the major attempt by the managerial economists under uncertainty, under difficult situations, and it is a goal oriented and it is market oriented. You have to be very practical. Everything should be quantifiable, and you have to take quick decision. You have to take quick decisions. This is not theoretical like microeconomics. So basic characteristics is actually, though it is microeconomic, it's goal oriented and it is conceptual and it can be quantified. So this is the diagram. It is different from traditional economics, decision problems, and it has borrowed from traditional economics, but it has given emphasis on decision problems, and it has implemented decision science tools and techniques of analysis, and optimal solution would be found out. Optimal solution to business problems would be found out by the managerial economists. Now again here, this basic characteristic can be written like this. It is concerned with the decision making. It is a microeconomics in character, largely uses body of economic concepts. Then it is goal oriented and perceptive. Managerial economics conceptual and metrical. And managerial economics will be thought of as applied microeconomics, which focuses on the behavior of the individual actors on the economic stage, firms and individuals. Now the possible self-assessment questions, you can go for the questions like discuss the nature and scope of managerial economics. Managerial economics is the integration of economic theory with business practice for the purpose of facilitating decision making and forward planning by manager. Explain and comment. Define scarcity and opportunity cost. What role do these two concepts play in the making of management decisions? Opportunity cost means actually the cost of foregoing one possible use of an input. Like suppose you are using labor and capital for producing one unit for producing one product. Then if you are using one extra labor, you have to forego some amount of capital. Then that case you are using foregoing that capital. That is the cost of capital you are foregoing. That is opportunity cost is actually used in the next best alternative. That is opportunity cost. So the question number 3, you can discuss define scarcity and opportunity cost. What role do these two concepts play in the making of management decisions? You can write down about scarcity and the other possible related figures with scarcity. That is limited resources, proper choice. Then opportunity cost you can write down. That is two variables are there, suppose capital and labor. What will be the opportunity cost of production? You can write down that and you can discuss. Similarly, managerial economics is often said to help the business student integrate the knowledge gained in other courses. How is this integration accomplished? Here you can write down managerial economics relation with the other branches of economics as well as statistics and other areas. Compare and contrast microeconomics with macroeconomics. And here you can write down that is microeconomics deals with things at micro level, macro at aggregate level, micro works for individual firms and individual consumers. Macro, basically we are discussing in macro inflation, price level, total gross national product, etc. In that way, you can write down the difference between micro and macro. Although managerial economics is based primarily on microeconomics, explain why it is also important for managers to understand macroeconomics. As we have discussed, macroeconomics there, we are discussing the national income accounting, and we can forecast the national income, we can forecast the decision, forecast the results, and there we can take the help of linear programming, that concept we can take the help of that, and you can write that way. Justify that managerial economics is economics applied in decision making. This you can very well write, no problem. Here you have to write other books also. Sorry, you have to study other books. You can study Porsene's book, a book by Porsenes. You can study that book. Baumol, Economic Theory and Operations Analysis, Baumol you can study, and you can take help of information from internet. There are plenty of information on internet on managerial economics, and Baumol is a very good book for discussing the managerial economics. And there is Adhikari book by M. Adhikari, book by W. Hans. But if you go through this particular go through this particular unit 1 given to you, but this won't be enough. You have to study other books. So try to find out one standard book from where on from which you will get all the informations regarding as I told you that unit 2 and 3 will be little lengthy one. We have to discuss their farms, objective and decision issues, basic techniques, all those things. You take the help of these units as well as other books, and there you will get all the informations regarding managerial economics. So we should wind it up here. Sorry. I'm extremely sorry. I'm having very big acute cold. So sorry for that. And now we can go back to, we have time. Yes, 5 minutes more, we have time. We can actually start from the beginning. What exactly we discussed? We discussed there are two broad categories of micro and macro. Then we discussed managerial economics, how the farm reacts to changes and how it predicts these changes. Then we discussed about the economy. What is the economy? What is it? Is an institutional structure. Then we discussed about how the economy functions. That is, and what are the institutions, corporations, governments, markets. All these are economic institutions. Then we studied about this market. Market is perhaps the most important and complex institution, and market definition also we studied here. Then in the market can be of many types, competitive and monopolistic, and can be having less number of farms and more number of farms. Then we discussed the fundamental nature of managerial economics, which involves coordination among different factors of production and activity or an ongoing process of production, a purposive process, an art of getting things done by other people. So here economics is engaged here two fundamental facts, that is scarcity of resources results from two fundamental facts, unlimited and insatiable, and limited. Now here, the fundamental nature of managerial economics, the coordination between all these scarce factors is important, and the process of changing these inputs into output with the given limited amount of input, then that process also is part of nature of the managerial economics. Then choice problems, we studied about the choice problems, and here also we studied about the ways. There are three ways which can be we can achieve these goals by three ways, that is by market mechanism, by government, or by a combination of government and market. Then we discussed about market efficiency, how market efficiency is not possible in the present world or in the real world. Market failure is pervasive. It is because of monopoly, public goods, externalities, and information. Then if market is failing, then there is a case for intervention. But here, who is going to intervene and how the government is going to correct it? But market is actually often, markets correct their own failures. It is auto-correcting, you can say that way. Okay, so on economic grounds, there is no tidy answer to the question of where the boundary between the state and that is government and market should lie, so that market intervention is to the minimum or market intervention is optimum. But markets find ways to mitigate the harm, and that is a task for which governments actually have remained unsuccessful. Then we studied about the scope of managerial economics, that is here problems of choice. We studied that. Then resource allocation, inventory queue and queuing problems, pricing problems, investment problems. Then this also involves certain other major or certain major subjects like business farm and its objectives, demand analysis, production and cost, pricing theory, how the pricing should be done by the farms, how the profit should be taken by the profit should be gained by the generated by the marginal sorry, by the managerial economics, and how the competition is going to be handled by the managerial economist. Theory of cost, control of cost. Then these are the appropriate definitions. And then it is similar to macro research, theory of decision making, statistics, management theory, then micro and macro analysis, partial and general equilibrium analysis, static, comparative, static and dynamic analysis, static, comparative, static and dynamic analysis, positive and normative analysis. So basic characteristics is decision making. That is the which we are going to study in the unit number 2, and it is goal oriented, microeconomic in behavior. This case study we found how it is very difficult for the manager to take a decision immediately and to be successful at it. Then decision making, then basic characteristics, and these are the summaries. This is the idea about your scope of managerial economics. Thank you.